In a quiet rural village surrounded by rolling fields and narrow dirt paths lived two neighbors named Rowan and Caleb. Their wooden homes stood side by side, only a small fence of old planks dividing their land. For many years, people in the village said the two men were almost like brothers. They helped each other repair roofs, shared tools during planting season, and sat together on warm evenings to drink tea by the fire. Rowan was known for his calm discipline. He woke before sunrise every day, checked his crops carefully, and worked with steady hands until sunset painted the sky with soft colors. His field was not the largest in the village, yet it always grew healthy vegetables and bright golden grain. Caleb, on the other hand, had a different rhythm. He was friendly, charming, and loved by everyone in the market, but he often postponed tasks and relied on last-minute effort. Some seasons he succeeded, other seasons he struggled, yet he always smiled through every difficulty. For years, Rowan quietly admired Caleb's easy attitude, while Caleb admired Rowan's discipline. Their friendship felt balanced, honest, and strong. But everything changed the year Rowan's harvest grew better than ever. It started with small whispers from villagers who passed by his field. "Rowan's land looks beautiful this season. His grain stands taller than anyone's. He must have worked very hard." Rowan heard these comments and simply nodded with a humble smile, but Caleb heard them too, and something inside him tightened. At first it was a mild sting, just a small comparison he tried to ignore. But as the weeks passed, the compliments grew louder, and the praise for Rowan spread through the village like wind through the wheat. Caleb began to watch Rowan in silence, his smile fading into something sharper. He noticed details he had never paid attention to before. The new tools Rowan bought after selling a few early crops. The fresh wood he used to repair his storage shed. The eager way villagers approached him to ask for advice. And with every new improvement Rowan made, jealousy rooted deeper in Caleb's heart. He started waking earlier, not to work, but to observe. Rowan through the narrow gap in the fence. He counted the people who visited Rowan's field. He listened to the friendly conversations Rowan had at the market. He studied the way Rowan moved with confidence. Caleb began to believe something irrational but powerful. He convinced himself that Rowan's success was no-turned through discipline. He believed Rowan had some hidden secret, some special advantage, something unfair. The jealousy grew until it burned like a quiet fever. One morning, Caleb approached Rowan at the well, pretending to smile. "You seem to be doing well this season," he said. Rowan nodded politely. "It's been a good year. Hard work helps." Caleb forced a laugh, but inside, bitterness twisted deeper. In the following days, Caleb started making small comments to villagers. Little things at first. "Strange how Rowan's crops grew so fast this year. Maybe he found a shortcut. You know, sometimes success is not as honest as it looks." He said these things softly, never pointing fingers, never sounding direct. But rumors are seeds. Once planted, they grow even without rain. It didn't take long for whispers to spread. Rowan began to feel a strange tension whenever he walked through the village. People looked at him differently, their warm smiles replaced by quiet suspicion. He wondered what had changed, unaware of the poison moving behind him. One afternoon, a villager approached Rowan at the market and asked, "Is it true you used something unnatural on your field?" Rowan was stunned. He shook his head, confused and hurt, but the villager walked away without listening. For the first time in his life, Rowan felt the weight of isolation. Caleb watched from a distance, feeling a brief thrill of satisfaction. But jealousy never ends with satisfaction. It always asks for more. Soon, even seeing Rowan tired or hurt was not enough to quiet the bitterness. Caleb wanted Rowan's success to crumble. He wanted proof that Rowan did not deserve what he had. One night, as clouds covered the moon and the village slept, Caleb slipped out of his house and walked to the fence. He stared at Rowan's field, glowing faintly under the dim sky. Then, something dark whispered inside him. A terrible idea, simple and silent. He lifted a loose plank of the fence and stepped into Rowan's field. Caleb carried a small bag of spoiled seeds and scattered them near the growing plants. He pulled up several young shoots. He overturned a section of soil with his foot. Then he crept back home, heart racing, guilt and envy mixed like storm clouds inside him. 2 days later, Rowan discovered the damage. He knelt beside the ruined plants, feeling a weight he had never felt before. "Who would do this?" he whispered. Caleb watched from his yard, pretending to be shocked when Rowan told him what happened. But Rowan noticed something strange in his eyes. An avoidance, a flicker, a shadow. He said nothing, though his chest tightened with a quiet fear. Over the next week, the spoiled seeds spread disease across part of Rowan's field. He tried to save the crops, working day and night, but the infection was strong. For the first time in many years, Rowan's harvest looked as though it might fail. The villagers shook their heads. Some believed the rumors. Some blamed bad luck. Some simply walked away. But Caleb felt the victory he once craved turn sour in his mouth. He watched Rowan labor from sunrise to sunset, watched him fight for every remaining plant, watched him carry the weight of betrayal without knowing where it came from. The guilt grew heavier than any sack of grain. And Caleb finally realized the truth he had ignored for months. He had not hated Rowan. He had hated the mirror Rowan held up to his own laziness, his own insecurity, his own unwillingness to grow. One evening, unable to bear the silence any longer, Caleb walked to Rowan's field. Rowan looked up from the soil, exhausted and pale. Caleb opened his mouth to speak, but the words tangled in his throat. He felt the crushing weight of his own actions. I need to tell you something," he whispered. Rowan waited, eyes calm but tired. Caleb confessed everything, the jealousy, the rumors, the sabotage in the night. Rowan listened without interrupting. When Caleb finished, he bowed his head, expecting anger or rage. But Rowan only sighed, long and heavy. "Envy destroys the one who carries it," Rowan said softly. "It hurt you long before it hurt me." Caleb felt tears rise, but Rowan stood and placed a hand on his shoulder. "I cannot change what happened," Rowan continued. "But you can change what you do next." Caleb nodded, ashamed yet strangely relieved. From that day on, Caleb worked beside Rowan to repair the damage. He cleaned the infected soil, planted new seeds, and spent long days learning the discipline he once mocked. Rowan, patient and steady, taught him without judgment. Though the harvest was smaller that year, something far more important grew between them: humility, trust, and forgiveness. The village watched their friendship rebuild, understanding the deeper lesson beneath it. And from that season forward, parents in the village told their children, "Never let envy guide your steps. It blinds your eyes, poisons your heart, and turns good people into strangers. Be grateful for what you have. Work for what you want. And remember that someone else's success is not your failure." Because in a small village, where every hand matters, envy does not just ruin crops, it ruins lives. And as the seasons continued to pass, the villagers noticed something unexpected. Caleb's field, once inconsistent and unpredictable, began to show signs of genuine care. The rows grew straighter. The soil looked darker and healthier. The tools were no longer scattered, but cleaned and neatly stored each night. And whenever someone praised the improvement, Caleb no longer felt that sharp twist in his chest. Instead, he felt something gentle, something unfamiliar but warm. He felt pride. Not the loud pride born from comparison, but the quiet pride that comes from honest effort, from patience, from days spent sweating under the sun without seeking applause. One morning, while the two men stood side by side examining their crops, Caleb spoke softly. "I used to think success was something you took from someone else," he said. "But now I see it's something you build inside yourself." Rowan smiled, not triumphant, not superior, just relieved. "You learned the hardest lesson," he replied. "Growth is slow, but envy is fast. One builds a life, the other burns it." The wind passed over their fields, bending the grain in long golden waves. And for the first time in many months, Caleb felt the world settle into its proper place. Not behind Rowan, not ahead of him, but beside him, exactly where he belonged.